in our show. But why don't we start with talking about the team that does not look very good right now, and that is the Arizona men's basketball team. The Wildcats lost 73-58 to Utah last night, and what was, we were saying it was one of the worst games, but I think it's safe to say that it was their worst game of the season. Just bad offense, terrible defense. They're now 7-5 and 3 games out of first place in the Pac-12 standings. This game was certainly one of those ones that Arizona would have liked to have if they wanted to win the Pac-12 regular season title, but it just didn't come to play last night. That's just what happened. What did you see from the game last night, Ryan?
Yeah, I totally agree. That was their worst performance of the year by far, as they lost by a ton, and just a horrible performance. But to me, 2 things stuck out and have been sticking out to me the whole season. I know they've been playing well, but I said at the beginning of the year that this team was going to hit sort of a wall because of these 2 things. And number one, they don't have a go-to scorer. I've been saying this all year, and it's true. They do not have they do not have an every night go-to scorer. Akinjo has been that guy over the past 5 games. Mathurin for a few games has shown it a little bit, but nobody truly, night in, night out has been hitting those shots at a high level. And number 2, as I just said, hitting shots, they can't hit shots at a high level, and not even at an average level on most nights. Last night they were 37% shooting from the field and 22% from 3. And I know it's only 22% from 3, but the real concerning part to me, and if you look at the past few games, they don't take enough 3-point shots. They took 9 3-point shots, and they only made 2. You're not going to win a basketball game if you on most nights against a good team and an in-conference game if you only hit 2 3-point shots.
Yeah, as the title of our show says, the offense was really bad last night, but the defense was even worse. I mean, there was, there's always a way to overcome a bad shooting night, right? Like, in Arizona certainly had that bad shooting night last night, right? Like you said, 37% from the floor. They made just 2 threes that entire night. Benedict Mathurin was 1 for 6. Terrell Brown 3 for 11. James Akinjo was 2 for 9. He didn't even have his first bucket until halfway through the second half. Like, there are ways to overcome a bad shooting night, and we've seen Arizona do that before, right? There was that one game where they didn't even make a 3, and they still ended up winning the game. So it's doable, but the only way you can do it is if you play defense on the other end of the floor, and they did not do that at all last night. Utah's big men were just doing whatever they wanted last night. Jordan Brown just looked lost. These guys were just getting backdoor cut all night long. Like, every possession, it felt like Utah was ending its possession in a bucket. Like, it was like, I don't, want to make. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this team anymore. Like, I keep waiting around for them to get better at defense. Like, because this is a good offensive team. Like, it didn't look like it last night, but they are. They're still top 3 in almost every offensive category in the conference. So this team can score. The defense is just not very good at all. And if this team wants to win the Pac-12 regular season title, they're going to need to guard up. And we can get excited about Kirk Kriisa coming back and adding to that rotation, but all that means nothing if you don't play defense. It's honestly a good thing that we're not going to see this team in the postseason, because it would not. I don't think they would make it very far playing defense like that. I mean, Utah shot 50% from the field last night, and they were just cannon every single 3-pointer. So they were just getting so many wide open looks. Like, it was really bad.
Yeah, and as you just mentioned, the regular season Pac-12 title, I think we could put those hopes to rest right now, as that will not be happening this season. But I mean, really coming into the year, my expectations were basically just to take it as a developmental year. They have a lot of new players, a lot of guys that don't have a lot of experience playing in the United States. And so I took it for what it is. Some didn't, because they caught a little fire and went on a run and to win a lot of games early on. But I mean, from here on out, I mean, you got to basically just look at and focus on the development of each guy and how they've played. And even though they lost, I mean, the guy who's been trending in the right direction the last few games is Christian Coloco. I've been the hardest on Christian Coloco since the beginning, but last night, 9 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, and he doesn't play a lot of minutes, 24 minutes, a little more than usual. But So yeah, I mean, and then Tabellis is basically just Tabellis at this point. Every night he's going to get his, like last night, 17 points, 7 rebounds, and was very good, I thought. But he's not like a go-to scorer. He's not a guy who can really create for himself normally. But yeah, as you said, the defense was just horrendous in that game, and I just wanted to touch on Kerr Kriisa a little bit. I mean, him and Dalen Terry in that game, they just looked like they looked like two inexperienced guys. They looked out of place. And but like I'm not really I'm taking them for what they are too. I mean, that's what you got to do. They're younger guys. They're really young. Kerr was his first game. I know Sean Miller raves about him in practice. All the guys do too, but he is what he is. It's his first game, so I didn't expect much, but some of those shot attempts, I remember he took a shot that was probably 5 feet beyond the three-point line. Like, you just can't be taking shots like that, period. And that's the whole key with this team. Their shot selection is horrible. They don't know when to take shots, and it just seems everyone on this team is timid and doesn't want to go to the basket.
It just didn't look like they wanted it last night. Like, they didn't look like they wanted to play. And Utah's a gritty team. Like, if you don't show up and play against Utah, they're gonna beat you. Like, they just came off, I think it was like an 18-point comeback win over Colorado or something like that. So they're amped up. They're ready to go. Like, this is not a team that you can kind of just like, play 50-70% against. Like, you got to actually try against Utah. Like I think the front court actually played really well, like you said about Koloko and Tabellis, but there's everybody else was just not very good. And we've talked about how Arizona doesn't really have that go-to scorer. Akinjo does it, but he has those games, and he had it last night where it just doesn't look like everything is falling for him. So like, he has those off nights, and it really kind of hurts the team. But I liked, I don't think, Kerr Kriisa did look, kind of mad last night, right? But I mean, I think that's what we kind of expected, right? It's his first game coming in, but we did kind of see kind of flashes of what he could potentially be. I mean, he had 2 assists in like the first 4 minutes, I think, of his playing time. So like, he was, having that extra ball handler on the court, you can just tell it made differences. Having Kerr out there and giving Akinjo and Terrell Brown some rest, you could tell it made some differences. And he's really comfortable with the ball. It looked like he had the ball in the string when he was dribbling. Like, he looks comfortable out there. It's just the points are going to have to come later. And I think the shot selection will be there once he starts to get more comfortable. But I think the addition to Kerr Kriisa is really important because it adds that extra ball handler and, just someone who can take the workload off of Akinjo and Terrell Brown. So I'm not worried about Kerr Kriisa. I think he'll come around, and I think he'll definitely be a very good addition to this team later on.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I'm not worried about Kerr. But James Akinjo's performance last night was basically how a lot of like 5 or 6 guys on this team have been all season long. Like, him scoring 10 points he'll score 10 points, he'll score 0. He did a few games ago, I believe, against USC, and then he'll score 20, 25. So that's just, everyone's just so inconsistent on this team, and nobody can really find their stride night in and night out. And he just has to take more shots. I mean, and Terrell Brown's basically Terrell Brown. He hasn't showed that scoring touch as he did last year, and he's going to get about 8 to 10 a game, maybe a little less. But the guys that really need to step up more is James Akinjo, and just a little bit on Benedict Mathurin. He just looks a little too comfortable. I mean, I know he's had some great games, so I think he might have, he just maybe hit that wall where he needs to break through. But last night he just didn't look like he wanted it at all, as you said, with the whole team, and just wasn't aggressive on the offensive end.
That seems to be the theme the last couple games, right? Just Arizona just, looks a little bit lazy, right? Like, they got whooped by Stanford because they just weren't playing. Like, and even the game against Cal, like, they got away with it because Cal's not very good, but they didn't, play with a ton of heart in that game either. Like, I don't know, if maybe they're just getting tired or what's going on, but these last couple of weeks, it doesn't really seem like they want it anymore. And that's something that I'm really surprised that I'm seeing that, because from what Sean Miller was saying and what the other guys were saying is like, this is a good tight knit group and they want to play with each other and they're excited to be around each other. I don't really know what it is. I mean, I think it sounded like they said they weren't prepared for last night's game. So part of that is maybe on Sean Miller, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know where the energy is with this team. And I can understand, right, not being in the postseason, and maybe it's finally kind of caught up to them and all the COVID protocols. Maybe it's just, all of it's piling up and finally catching up to them. But I don't know. It just seems like this team just doesn't want it, these last couple games. But, it's tough to see, but, they're only 3 games out of it. It's tough to kind of, count them out. It's 3 games. I mean, maybe, but it's starting to feel more like a reach at this point if they're going to win the Pac-12 regular season title, especially because UCLA is kind of just rolling right now. But